Of all the 77 trusts that exist in the United States, they all are some version of a revocable trust or an irrevocable trust. And I use 5 different types of trusts in my personal ecosystem, my personal overall plan. In the revocable living trust ecosystem, these are the types of trusts that I use. First, I use what is called a standby trust. This is a revocable trust that stands by and waits for a triggering event to happen before it comes into effect, right? So I've drafted trusts that currently do nothing and will do something once a specific triggering event occurs. So as an example, when I retire, which I'll never do, but when I hit a certain age, that trust kicks in. If a particular event happens to me, let's say I'm hospitalized for a particular reason, a standby trust kicks in, right? It waits for a particular triggering event to occur, stands by, and waits for that to occur. Once that occurs, it comes into effect. So I personally use standby trusts within my own ecosystem. I also use land trusts. This is a very specific type of revocable trust that is designed to own real estate. And I utilize this type of trust so that my name is not on public record with regard to a deed. It is a private agreement. That entity owns the land or the real estate, right? And it owns it in such a way that separates legal title from beneficial ownership. And it's an interesting ecosystem because what we can effectively do in that environment is we separate legal title to the trustee of the land trust, and the beneficial ownership, the beneficial title, goes to the beneficiary. But it's crafted in such a way where the beneficiary is actually the party that actually has the control. They have the say. They have the ability to tell and dictate to the trustee what they want done, to sell the property, to mortgage the property, to rent the property. The beneficiary decides. So it's a different design behind the trust. And we do it in this way because it gives us the opportunity to start leveraging some creative things in the real estate investing ecosystem. Right, I can utilize land trust to engage in what are called subject to deals. Like I can acquire property subject to the existing mortgage that may be in place. And you may be saying, well, Edward, why is that important? Well, a lot of mortgages that were issued from the 2019s to the early 2020s were issued at pretty darn attractive interest rates compared to what they are today. So we could utilize land trusts to go through the process of acquiring a subject to deal that may have really low interest rates on the existing financing without triggering something called the due on sale clause that would otherwise happen when that seller sells the property to a third party, right? Instead of selling the property to us, they transfer it into their own land trust, and then they effectively sell the trust to us, right? Not the property. The trust still owns the property, thereby not triggering the due on sale clause. Right. Again, we need to have the same beneficial ownership structure in the beginning, like very specific things that need to be in place for the land trust strategy to work. And what's also interesting in the state of Florida, which is where I currently live, there's a specific aspect of land trust law in this state that makes land trusts a revocable trust that also has asset protection built into the statute. Nowhere else in the country do land trusts have that aspect. No other place has a land trust that has asset protections built in. But we get asset protections through the other aspects of the infrastructure, right? The other aspects of the infrastructure, the real wealth matrix infrastructure, trusts, holding companies, operating companies, special purpose entities, family management companies, beneficial operating companies. There's a variety of different infrastructure tools that we use to accomplish the various goals and objectives we have. But again, land trust is a very specific type of trust that I use. Now, on the irrevocable side of the spectrum, I personally use an irrevocable life insurance trust. And I do that because I personally am leveraging the Rockefeller Method, right? And I've designed our life insurance within my family the right way so as to accomplish the objective that is part and parcel to the Rockefeller Method. Now, if you've never heard of the Rockefeller Method and you don't know how it works, or you have heard of it, but you still don't really understand it fully, you want to make sure to jump in to my YouTube channel. I have an entire video on the Rockefeller Method. You can dive into it and understand what it takes to actually operate it the right way. The vast majority of insurance agents don't even understand how to do this the right way. I designed an entire video so that you can have that foundational understanding to get to the outcome that you desire. And again, because it's irrevocable, it helps us to accomplish within my family an ability for us to reduce our exposure to this concept of estate taxes, because I'm removing that asset, meaning the life insurance asset, from my taxable estate. Right? So I'm reducing our estate taxes as well. Right? So there's a variety of goals and objectives that get accomplished by putting together the right ecosystem of trusts. I also use what are called intentionally defective grantor trusts. Now, what this gives me the capability of doing is within the design of the trust, I've designed them in such a way so that I personally continue to be liable for the trust's income while I'm alive. Now you may say, well, what do you mean, Edward? Like, what does that do for us? Well, remember that table I showed you with the trust income tax rates? Well, I don't want my irrevocable trust to be paying that type of tax. That's stupid. But I also don't want to necessarily distribute that income to minor beneficiaries in my life. I have two children. My son Ryan is 11, my daughter Victoria is 9. I don't want to distribute income to them right now, right? Eventually they'll get access to income, but they don't need it today. So I want to make sure that the trust is not paying income tax rates on the income that trust is creating, right? So I make it intentionally defective for income tax purposes. I retain the responsibility of paying the income tax. Now, why is this also important? Well, I am now defunding my taxable estate because I'm paying the taxes on an asset that's outside and continuing to grow, compounding without being subjected to income taxes because I'm personally paying them. This is hugely beneficial, guys, hugely beneficial. When you start to see how this all works together, it's amazing. I also use charitable remainder unitrusts, right? And I do this because I didn't come from money, guys. Like my family, like we're pretty poor, right? So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to in any way say that I was the worst ever, like in the worst situation growing up, right? It wasn't. My household was filled with love. It just had no money at all, right? My family had to work really hard just to get up to the poverty line, right? So I didn't come from money. And I can remember times when people would come to our house and give us food because we didn't have food, especially like around holidays, like Thanksgiving. I can remember times when they would deliver food to our house because we didn't have it, right, growing up. And fundamentally supported us, right? That was amazing, amazing. And I just made a commitment when I started making money that I just started giving it away, like giving it away to the causes that I care about, not indiscriminately. Like I didn't give it away to the government, right? Like, but there are certain causes that I truly care about. They're very near and dear to my heart. So I created methodologies utilizing charitable remainder unitrusts to essentially create an opportunity to give to charity, get a tax benefit for doing it, and still having control over those dollars. Right? Because I'm a control freak, right? Again, that is our ecosystem. And now, when you look at all of the different trusts I have in place, I should not be the model, right? I have 17 different trusts. The vast majority of people don't need that, right? That's absolutely ridiculous. I'm definitely overboard. But these are the types of trusts that I have. Standby trusts, land trusts, irrevocable life insurance trusts, intentionally defective grantor trusts, charitable remainder unitrusts. And I have them designed in just the right way, along with everything else that exists in our ecosystem across the 4 spectrums of assets and income non-passive, passive, portfolio, and personal. Because pretty much everything in your financial life falls into one or more of those 4 categories of assets and income. Utilizing trusts, holding companies, operating companies, family management companies, special purpose entities, all in just the right way and in just the right order to keep more of every single dollar I make, to protect those dollars from all the outside enemies at the gate, the creditors, the litigants, the opportunists who want a piece of our pie, strategically figure out exactly how to deploy those saved and protected dollars towards the creation of even more wealth, and then ultimately ensure that it goes to the people and the causes I care about, right? Because that, in my opinion, because it leads to the creation of generational wealth, that is the measure of truly winning at the game of business. If you got value from this video, go ahead and click that like button. And if you want to be informed of new videos that could help take your life and your business to the next level, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.